Hi, my name is Karlyn Percil. Welcome to Sister Talks, where we have authentic conversations about life and love. We just taped an amazing episode on Oprah's Lifeclass on colorism. And one of the biggest aha moments for me was how colorism is not just about the color of your skin, but it also includes the hair and the features. And my sisters and I from the SisterTalk Group continued the conversation after the taping was done. So what I'd like to do is to bring you in with us and come and have a conversation about colorism and how it affects not just Black women, but all women of color. So Como, who is of South Asian descent, colorism, does it exist within your own race, and has it affected you in any way at all?
Well, first of all, much like we saw on the Lifeclass, colorism has deep roots, I think, across the world, and so too does it in South Asia, and particularly in India, where my parents are from. And you know, I grew up in a culture and a family and a broader community where light skin is absolutely coveted. I come from a culture where people use bleaching cream, where fairness is one of the main selling points for people's marriages being arranged and even people introduced to each other.
I too went through the whole negative thing growing up, just the whole reinforcement about my dark skin making a difference as to how I'm perceived in terms of beauty or even opportunities that are open to me, in terms of even intelligence. That shows how people react differently, right? Some people might own it and shrivel up. I kind of was like, no, that's not me. I'll prove that. I'll show you it's not me, right?
But when you don't have the positive examples and when you don't have anyone who validates you for who you are, like, how do you deal with this? So you have a young daughter who's dark. How do you define her? What do you tell her?
The beautiful thing is that Ayana, towards the end of the show, mentioned that it's not a light skin, dark skin, but it's lighter than. Right? So and I thought that was really interesting because my daughter is lighter than me. She's dark skinned. I consider her dark skinned, but she's lighter than me. And I remember when she was little, she was even lighter, and she said, you know, Mommy, how come our skin's different? And I thought, because the reality is, and I mentioned this earlier, is that the whole colorism was a discussion or a subject that I resisted. I resisted it with everything inside of me. And even when, not until we did the interview prior to the show, did I realize, like, oh my goodness, I've been impacted by this discussion. And I very much, for me, my response to it was to intellectualize it. So think of it as something outside of myself. Well, those people have this, whatever. And I know that Oprah talked about the documentary Dark Girls, and you and I have had great conversations about it. And I refuse to see it because I said to myself, well, if you don't have an issue or a complex, then why are you going to watch a documentary that's going to bring about these things?
But then Ayana mentioned, in order for us to heal and move forward, we have to acknowledge it. We have to talk about it.
And for me, the safe place was for me to not acknowledge it, right? And to, like Nicole was saying, push myself beyond my physical and not define myself by my physical appearance. So it was a matter of, I don't want to be considered the dark girl or whatever. I say Angelina the smart one, or you know, the one that does this and what have you. But the reality is that there are people out there that see me and classify me as the dark girl.
I consider my family is Somali. We're of Somali descent. Somalia and Ethiopia, the whole region was all one country, one people, until it was all divided thanks to colonialism. And that has had a huge impact and effect on people's mentality, because there was a time where my people used to sing songs that spoke of, if I directly translated it, it would have said, I'm darker than coal, basically. So it was a beautiful thing to say, you know, I look like coal, you know, and I'm tall and I'm this. Like, these were attributes that people considered beautiful. Where it changed for, you know, Somali people or East African people, was probably during colonialism. With all the influences, we had Italians and Portuguese and British all there, Indian, East Asians, and some people ended up being interbred. So there's an area, there's a group of people within Somalia who are mixed with, I think, Portuguese blood. People didn't marry into them. Like, they were their own race. Like, that's how much people loved and valued being black. Somehow, today, in 2013, women who come from the same country as I do, whether they're born here or they migrated here, use a lot of bleaching creams. You know, the lighter skinned you are, the more beautiful you are.
So how do we move forward, or how do we acknowledge each other's stories within each race? You know, like, you have colorism within your own race. There's some colorism within, I'm West Indian, and I think similar to your story, I grew up in the bush, so, you know, like, no television, no electricity, no nothing. So I didn't have the magazines to, I guess you can say, cloud my judgment or even expose me to that kind of, to colorism at all. So I guess you can say I grew up very naive, not being aware of, like, that exists, because to me I was just like, oh, really? People have different, okay, that wasn't my reality. But for the hair one, I got it, because when Yana mentioned it's not just the color of your skin, there's hair, and then there's, oh, I get it now, because with my short picky hair, nappy hair, it was like, well, you're not beautiful enough and you want it long. And even my niece, she says that, she's like, Auntie, I want my hair to be long because then I'll be beautiful. And it's like, what do you tell her? And how do we move away, not move away, but how do we reframe, and how do we tell the younger generation coming, or how do we as adults deal with colorism so that we can send the right message to the younger generation who's coming?
If I could speak to that, I think there's two things that, three things, sorry, that took place during the talk and our conversation afterwards that really resonated with me. One was that God, everything God makes is beautiful, that comment. Two, hearing Komal's story and understanding it's not just a black thing, because sometimes you think light skin, dark skin, that is a black conversation. Yeah. But understanding that it is, this is something that takes place amongst all colonialized nations. And three, there's a woman that spoke to the young 19-year-old girl, just saying that this is something that's systemic.
We increasingly are becoming more conscious of the fact that kids that are bullies are learning that behavior because they're being bullied. And that often they cope with, kids that are being bullied often cope with the experience of being bullied by picking someone else to bully. And so there is this, like, where that this is something that impacts all of us. Colorism impacts, because it's not whether you're fair or dark, it's like, are you fairer than?
For colorism, we have to look at it as an individual on an individual basis. It's not one of those things where am I going to look to the other person, or it's like, how do I make a difference in myself?
I'm not saying that there aren't Caucasian people who might have an intellectual understanding about colorism and what we go through, but when it comes to the actual going through it and experiencing it and actually allowing what we have experienced to color our vision and how we see ourselves and how we position ourselves in life.
I think it's a matter of educating the next generations, because one thing I did, my takeaway was that it all really starts at home. A child,
but some children don't experience it at home. So for example, with the young girl, her mom did not tell her she's ugly because she's dark. She learned it at school.
And I think that we are a really good example of how that simplicity around, I validate you, I see you, I see your soul, your spirit, I see your story, I see your position, your place, I see your experience, I validate it, I honor it, and I am here in sisterhood to elevate all of us collectively together.
Yes, and the other thing too about Sister Talk, and I think Oprah who said that, she said that a wound needs a witness.
Yes.
Yes.
That's
so
so
big.
big.
That for me
That was
was
huge.
So big.
that was a huge
that was a
moment.
really
And that's
big
the other
one,
part of Sister
Yeah.
Talk, and that's why we have Sister Talks, again, which is an authentic conversation we bring to you about life and love. We talk about what I call our elephant stories, those wounds, those stories about you're ugly because, or you're beautiful because you're dark, or the color of your skin means that you need to try harder, or you're not going to get what you deserve in life. We also provide a space for us to air those wounds and for us to share it,
Witness
and then witness it, and then as Como mentioned, we elevate each other and we support each other through that journey. So to anybody out there, I don't know if you guys have any stories about colorism, what are your views, what are your thoughts, feel free to leave a comment below. We have those kind of conversations all the time, so we invite you to tune in again to our next Sister Talks, where we will continue to bring you authentic conversations about life and love. Thank you for watching.